Hello, readers. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to today's literary session. As we journey through the corridors of Augustan poetry, we pause to explore one of the finest examples of wit, satire, and poetic craftsmanship, Alexander Pope's The Rape of the Lock. So, today's lecture is not just about understanding a poem, it is about stepping into the refined drawing rooms of 18th century England, listening to the whisper of fans and rustle of silk, all while unraveling the sharp commentary that lies beneath. We will laugh, reflect, and most importantly, learn how literature transforms even the pettiest of quarrels into the timeless art. So let's open our minds and engage with a poem that is as much about beauty as it is about brilliance. Welcome once again. Let's begin. So, The Rape of the Lock is one of the most celebrated mock epic poems in English literature, written by Alexander Pope, a towering figure of Augustan age. The poem is not merely a witty commentary on the vanities of high society, but also a brilliant satirical work that imitates the grandeur of classical epics to depict a trivial social incident, the cutting of a lock of hair. Through this lecture, we will explore the historical context, mock epic conventions, satirical elements, themes, and characterization, and the stylistic brilliance of Pope. So, about the poet, as we have discussed in our previous class about Alexander Pope, that he was regarded as the greatest English poet of 18th century, right? Born to a Roman Catholic family, Pope faced social and educational restrictions but became highly learned through self education. His notable works include an essay on criticism, The Rape of the Lock, The Dunciad, Essay on Man, translations of Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. So we can say that Pope was a master of satire and a brilliant user of heroic couplet, a form he perfected. So let's talk about the historical and literary background of the text. So it is based on real life incident. Arabella Fermor and Lord Peter were two aristocratic individuals from Catholic families in England. Lord Peter cut off a lock of Arabella's hair without her permission, which caused a serious social quarrel. The purpose of writing is actually Pope, a friend to both families, who wrote the poem initially in 1712. 1712, right? To to ease tensions with humor. He later revised it in 1714 by adding full machinery of supernatural beings, right? So the poem is a fine example of Augustan literature. It has urbanity, satirical wit, and it has emphasis on classical learning, interest in social manners and decorum. So the genre is mock epic, or we can say that heroic comical poem. So the term mock epic or mock heroic refers to a literary form that imitates the serious style of epic poetry to ridicule trivial subjects. In Rape of the Lock, Pope uses elevated diction, classical allusion as well, supernatural machinery he used there, epic similes and invocations to narrate the petty theft of a lock of hair, thereby exposing the absurdity of the aristocratic values. So let's talk about the plot summary, which is divided into 5 cantos. So the first canto 1, the canto 1, the morning ritual and the role of cells. So basically, the poem begins with a grand, mock epic invocation to the muse, as it is typical in classical epics. The narrator announces the dire offense that has caused a mighty quarrel. We are introduced to Belinda, the beautiful young heroine. This character of Belinda, based on Arabelle Fermor, who wakes up late after having a dream sent by her guardian self, Ariel. In the dream, Ariel warns her that a great danger looms, though the nature of threat is left vague. So Belinda awakens and prepares for the day. This preparation is described with the epic grandeur as if she were an excellent warrior donning armor. In Canto 1, her toilet, her dressing table becomes an altar. Her cosmetics and jewelry are her weapons. The cells, actually, these are supernatural beings of air, or you can say the fairy. Cells are fairies. Assist her in guarding her beauty and honor. So we also learn the Rosicrucian machinery there, Pope's parody of mystical spiritual systems, which explains the existence of sylphs. Sylphs are basically spirits of flirtatious women. Genomes are there, salamanders are there, nymphs are there. So they are basically spirits or the supernatural elements of the poem. So the main theme of the Canto 1 is it's a satire on women's obsession with appearance. It's a parody of epic grandeur to in mundane activities. So Canto 2 is about the boat ride and the Baron's plot. So Belinda is now on the Thames River. She's on the Thames River on her way to a fashionable social event, accompanied by elegant nobles. The setting is pastoral and serene, likened to a royal procession. Here we are introduced to Baron. There's single R actually. Baron, the antagonist, and this character is based on Lord Peter, who is a friend of Alexander Pope, who actually cut hair, a lock of hair of Miss Arabelle Fermor. So the character is secretly plotting to steal a lock of Belinda's hair. He views this act as a form of conquest. So earlier that morning, the Baron built an altar to love, where he burned love tokens, made a prayer to gain the lock. So his wish is granted by the favorable power. Meanwhile, Ariel, the chief sylph, the chief fairy, senses danger and assigns various sylphs to guard different part of Belinda's body and attire. Like there's an angel, Zifreta. She takes care of her earrings. Momentilla takes care of her watch, and Kirispisa, she takes care of her hair. But Ariel becomes worried when he detects that Belinda may secretly enjoy the attention of the Baron, making her protection weaker due to her own vanity and coquetry. So main themes are foreshadowing of violation, irony in the depiction of romantic conquest. There is a commentary on female complexity in vanity. Canto 3 is about the game of ombre and the rape of the lock. So the group reaches the Hampton Court Palace, where aristocrats engage in courtly amusement. The central event of this canto is a card game called Ombre. This is a card game actually, played between Belinda and two noblemen, including Baron. So Pope describes the game with seriousness and terminology of an actual epic battle, drawing a parallel with classical warfare. Belinda wins the game, triumphing over her male opponents, a symbol of her charm and dominance in society. After the game, Belinda is distracted by polite conversation and coffee. Taking this opportunity, the Baron, assisted by Clarissa, who gives him the scissors, and Clarissa is one of the friends of Belinda. So he cuts off one of Belinda's lock, and despite resistance from the cells, so Ariel tries to intervene but finds he cannot do so, as Belinda herself is secretly willing or unaware, thus stripping him of power. So this act, the rape of the lock, is treated with mock tragic intensity. Belinda is devastated and self flee in despair. Now the Canto 4. Canto 4 is about Belinda's anguish and moralizing the Thalestries and Clarissa. So this canto opens with Belinda's plunge into emotional turmoil. Her grief is described through the personification of spleen, a symbolic goddess representing melancholy, vapors, and exaggerated feminine emotion. Belinda's friend Thalestries, and actually she is furious on her behalf and fuels her indignation, urging her to avenge her honor. She dramatized the situation, likening the loss of Locke to a national tragedy. She then confronts the Baron with scorn, and but he remained defiant and boasts about this trophy. So at this point, Clarissa, who had earlier aided the Baron, surprisingly steps in with the moral speeches. She urges Belinda and others to remember the external beauty is fleeting, and that virtue and good sense are more lasting and honorable. However, Clarissa's advice is largely ignored and lost in the chaos of emotional emotions and vanity. Right now, the last canto is the battle and apotheosis of the log. So, the final canto opens with a mock epic battle, not with swords but with snuffs, fans, and glares. Belinda and her allies confront the Baron in a flirtatious yet furious exchange. Um, Belinda herself takes center stage and attacks the Baron with snuff and sharp words, right? But she demands the return of her log, but it is mysteriously lost. No one can find it. So, in the grand conclusion, the narrator the narrator declares that Locke has ascended to the heavens, where it has been transformed into a constellation. It means a star. A middle star inscribes Belinda's name. Thus, through poetic immortality, her beauty, honor, and preserved eternally, albeit through satirical exaggeration, is there, right? So, Rape of the Lock is a brilliant mock epic that exposes shallowness of high society, while at the same time transforming a trivial event into something sublime, humorous, and artistically immortal. So, Pope's canto wise structure mirrors the classical epic, but at every step he replaces gods with spirits, battles with card games, and heroism with vanity, producing a perfect parody of grandeur in a world obsessed with surface and style. So, this is all about the plot summary of this poem, of this text. Now, let's discuss the character. So, the main character is Belinda. This is actually she is actually Arabella Fermor. So, she is a protagonist. She is beautiful, a high born young woman. She symbolizes 18th century aristocratic femininity. She is actually obsessed with her beauty, charm, and reputation. She is, we can say that she is not a serious or a heroic character, but Alexander Pope presents her with mock epic grandeur. So her daily routine is exaggerated to seems like a warrior's ritual. Her name itself, Belinda. Belinda. This term comes from Latin roots, means beautiful. तो इसका मतलब ही beautiful होता है. ये Latin word है, मतलब Latin word नहीं है, but ये जो word है वो Latin root से आया है. तो इसका नाम ही ऐसा है, ब्यूटीफुल. सो हर डेली रूटीन्स एग्जैजरेटेड टू सीम लाइक वॉरियर्स रिचुअल. शी ऑलवेज बिजी इन हर to beautify herself only. So she represents female vanity and the fragility of honor. It's also a satire of how society values superficial qualities more than inner virtues. The second character is Baron, which is actually Lord Peter. He is the antagonist. He is a young man obsessed with possessing Belinda's lock of hair. He represents male pride. This one, Baron. ये मेल प्राइड को रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है, कॉन्क्वेस्ट एंड द ट्रिवियल परस्यूट्स ऑफ लव को. ही इज़ प्रेजेंटेड लाइक अ क्लासिकल वॉरियर, बट इंस्टेड ऑफ विनिंग बैटल he steals hair. He इसका hair lock चुरा लेता है. So embodiment of the petty ambitions and false heroism of aristocratic men. His altar to love parodies ancient religious seriousness with romantic foolishness. There is one more character, Ariel. It is a chief sylph, Belinda's supernatural guardian spirit. It's a parody of epic gods and protectors. Ariel represents reason, idealized beauty, and chaste love. Ariel's inability to stop the lock from being cut reflects how human desire overrides moral guardianship. It highlights the invisible forces of vanity, pride, and flirtation that rule aristocratic lives. It shows the limitation of idealism in the face of real human inclinations. The fourth character is Clarissa. She is a secondary character who actually gives Baron the scissors, then delivers a moral speech. She has voice of reason in a world who obsessed with appearance. She is both an accomplice and a moral critique. She symbolizes the tension between the virtue and vanity. Her ignored speech reflects how genuine mortality is often overlooked in fashionable society. Now the fifth character is Thalestris. She is Belinda's friend and emotional supporter. She named after a mythological Amazon warrior queen. It's a satirical epic. She represents female rage, honor-based hysteria, and exaggeration. Her character embodies how social reputation was blown out of proportion, especially for women. It reflects the gossip culture and melodrama among high society ladies. There is one more character, Sir Plew. He is a foppish gentleman. He is Thalestris' lover. This character is a symbol of foolish masculinity, full of empty bravado and lacking wit. This character represents the effectiveness of men in moral and emotional matters. Now they are sylphs. यहाँ पर ना कुछ ग्रुप्स हैं फेरीज का, उन्हीं को हमने सिल्व्स कहा है. दीज आर एक्चुअली सुपर नेचुरल स्पिरिट्स ऑफ एयर, गार्जियन ऑफ दी, एक्चुअली दे आर guardian of Belinda's body and virtue, right? So they represent frivolous spiritual forces that reflect inner thoughts and concretity, right? अब आगे कुछ major symbols हैं, like the lock of hair, right? ये देख रहे हो ना अभी, ये this one, this is lock of hair. It's a central symbol of the poem. It represents female honor, social value, and beauty, right? Its theft is equated with a rape. इसका चोरी होने एक रेप से इक्वेट किया गया है, बट ओनली फॉर मोकिंग, मतलब दिस इज फॉर मोकिंग ओनली, देयर इज नो एक्चुअल वायलेंस। जब आप इस टेक्स्ट को पढ़ेंगे तो आपको पता चलेगा कि कुछ ऐसा एक्चुअल में कोई वायलेंस या कोई रेप नहीं हुआ है। रेप इज कंसीडर्ड एज अ थेफ्ट, ठीक है, अ रॉबरी एक्चुअली। सो its theft is equated with rape, but there is no violence, just symbolic violation. Through this lock of hair, Alexander Pope critiques how society gives undue importance to physical appearance and chastity, and ignore deep virtue and intellect. The second symbol is the game of ombre. So basically, it's a card game that is described in epic terms. It symbolizes social competition, power play, and gender rivalry within aristocratic society. Even games of chance are treated with the seriousness of battles and mocking the elite's obsession with leisure. Now, this third symbol, the toilet, Belinda's dressing table. As we can see through this pic, it compared to an altar or a battlefield preparation area, right? So it's a symbol of vanity, ritualization, beauty, and self-worship. So the female preparation for the day is to be shown is shown to be sacred and serious as the priest or warrior's duty, but with comically trivial goals. Now the fourth symbol is the scissors, the fatal weapon. Um, the scissors used to cut the log become an epic weapon of this battle, symbolize how something mundane can become powerful in a social context. Actually, now these scissors show this weapon shows how objects can cause social destruction when caught in the web of gossip, honor, and vanity. Now, the self and Rosicrucian machinery. So, these supernatural beings we can see in the pic. These supernatural beings are based on ancient and occult belief system. It symbolizes the light-hearted, superficial spirit of aristocratic women. So Pope na actually satirizes the romantic notion of unseen forces, replacing it with spirits who cares about fans, curls, and glances. Now the last symbol of the text is the apotheosis of the lock. It's a scene of Canto 5. This is the final moment when the lock ascends into the heaven. You can see here, ये heaven में जा रहा है lock, and ascends into heaven and becomes a star. देखो ये lock जो है ना, ये यहाँ पर star बन गया और heaven में जा रहा है. So it symbolizes poetic immortality and mock glory. Actually, through this, Pope suggests that poetry can give eternal fame even to petty incidents, turning triviality into art. Right. So this is all about the symbols. There are some supernatural machinery, like there are cells, there are genomes, there are salamanders. Salamander means fire. There are nymphs, what are gentle, soft-hearted women. Now let's discuss the major themes. The first is vanity and triviality of the upper class. So the poem, the Rape of the Lock, mocks how society is obsessed with fashion, appearance, and status. Belinda's elaborate beauty ritual is described as if she were preparing for a war. Right? Gender politics and the role of women. Women are shown as both empowered and limited by the societal expectations. Clarissa's speech in Canto 5 calls for inner virtue over external beauty. Satire of epic convention. It's a grandiose language used to describe a petty quarrel. It highlights the ridiculous gap between form and subject. Appearance versus reality. So Belinda is a beautiful figure, but her internal world is shaped by pride and vanity. the society she inhabits values appearance over substance. This is a very brief introduction, a brief discussion over major themes. We will discuss it once again when we will read the text line by line. So there in the text you can see there are heroic couplets. They are primary structure. There is a use of mock heroic similes and hyperbole. The text, the poem rich in classical allusion, wit and parody. So on the one hand, Belinda is a figure of superficiality and societal pressure. On the other hand, Pope subtly critiques the objectification and idealization of women, portraying the theft of hair as a metaphor for her violation of agency and dignity. Clarissa's speech acts as a proto-feminist movement urging women to value virtue over vanity. So, Rape of the Lock became a model of mock epic poetry in English literature. It exemplifies Augustan values, which are wit, order, balance, classical learning, and urbanity. Alexander Pope's handling of meter, tone, and satire makes this poem both entertaining and thought provoking. So, with today's discussion, we have explored the Rape of the Lock as a remarkable mock epic that cleverly satires the vanities of aristocratic society through rich symbolism, fantastical characters, and delicate humor. Right. So Pope's brilliance lies in his ability to elevate the trivial to the epic, revealing the absurdities of his age with poetic fineness. So, understanding the historical and literary context, the character dynamics, and symbolic structure allow us to appreciate the poem not just as a comic piece but as a cultural critique wrapped in elegance. So, this is all about today's class. In our next class, we will begin a line by line reading and analyzing of Canto 1. So, please make sure to read the first canto in advance and bring your annotated copies of the text. We will be unpacking Pope's poetic style, language, and subtle irony. Thank you so much.